Welcome to Corrections Mama 27 channel. It's story time, and this is a very interesting story that is very hard to get this picture out of my mind. Some things just can't be unseen. So this is about an inmate. I'm going to call her Leary, and she was on a max custody yard. So there were death row inmates on that yard, but there were also high custody inmates for other charges also on that yard. But it was the highest custody level yard that we had at Perryville, and it was on the Lumley yard. And this was sometime around 2000. So, I'll give you a little bit of background on Leary, on, what kind of an inmate she was. I really don't know or remember much about her charges or what she was in there for. I generally did not pay a lot of attention to that unless I was taking them on a hospital run or taking them off site. I pretty much just treated them all the same. The rules are the same on the yard, so there's no reason to treat anyone any different. So Leary was on a max yard, and these they were two-man cells, but most of these women were one person per cell. So she was in her own cell, and she did not have a roommate. And these doors faced outside, so you would have like stairs outside that go up, and there's a run, and you could walk down this run, and their doors were facing the rec yard outdoors. It did not open up to a day room. They were, and a lot of those, all of them really, at Lumley, the dorms, they weren't dorms, they were cells, and they kind of faced the doors. When you open the cell door, they're outside. So anyway, so when we would do count or security checks or whatever, we do a check. We could always smell her building 2-3 doors down before you even get to it. She wasn't a very clean person. She did not have good hygiene. She did not take showers. She was just kind of very dirty, and seemed like maybe she was depressed. I don't know what her issue was, but she refused showers most of the time. And she just smelled really bad. And she was also a very, very obese and heavy inmate. I mean, she probably weighed 400 pounds. Like, she was very, very large. She just sat in her cell all the time and ate store, in which most store is pretty much junk food. It's sugar, it's snacks, potato chips, salty meats, and they also did not get a lot of time outside. They only got like an hour or so outside for rec, and most of the time she refused that. And the rec was really just, you go outside, and they have like a chain link cage with a top on it. And it also, in the summer, there was usually like a shade fabric over that. And so she just pretty much refused to go outside. She got very little activity, very little moving going on. And she had some health problems. The nurses would come to the yard, and they would give her insulin and give her her shots and take her blood sugar and things like that. And she was just in poor health, and they were concerned that because she was not wrecking and she was not moving about or getting any exercise, that, they wanted to improve her health, I guess. So medical got together, and somebody made a decision that, she needs to get out and move. We need to figure out how to get her out and move. Well, she's refusing rec, and she just sits in her cell all day. So, and even if she did get rec, it's like just 1 hour a day. And they really didn't have, those inmates didn't have access to you know, workout equipment or anything like that. And they did get offered showers. They could walk down to the end of the walk with an escort officer, and then we would lock them in the shower. And then when they were done, we would take them out and put them back in their house. But most of the time she refused that. And we didn't enforce the shower because nobody wanted to make her take a shower. And admin, that would have been an admin call anyway, and I just don't think they wanted to deal with the drama either. So, although we can do forced showers, but I'd never seen anyone actually do that. We would just try to encourage them or whatever to take a shower. So anyway, she, as you can imagine, you know, that's just the way her life was. And who knows, maybe she was depressed, or maybe she had other things going on and she just didn't care anymore because of the sentence she was doing, or maybe this was already her personality. I don't know. But we were told to get her prepared to go to medical. So when we have to prepare an inmate to go somewhere like medical or whatever. Now, medical, the building was by the administration building, and you had to walk a little ways. I would say just a little bit under, probably under a quarter of a mile. I mean, I don't know, it wasn't super duper far, but for her, it probably was pretty far. So we would, they called up and told us, get her ready for medical, she's going to medical. We're like, okay. So we handcuffed her through the trap and opened the door, took her out, patted her down, got her restraints and everything set and locked on and ready to go. And then an officer escorted her. And I believe it was a male officer, and there was probably somebody else with him, because there always had to be 2 people at the door and 2 people to escort. So one of the other officers went with him, and they took her to medical, and she was pretty upset. She didn't want to go. Why do I have to go? What's going on? We're like, I don't know. Medical just called and said it's time for you to go up to medical. So we're taking you. Then I guess they told her at medical that they wanted her to start walking to medical for 2 to 3 times a day for her insulin, and her to come to them. She wasn't happy about that. She was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not coming out of my cell. You're not interrupting my day several times a day to just come down here for my insulin. You guys used to come to my cell. Why aren't you going to do that now? Whatever. So, you know, the argument ensued. She was very upset about it. She didn't want to do it. And so they says, well, you know, you have to, or you're not going to get your insulin. So she was probably thinking along the way, what is she going to do to prevent this from continuing? And she did what, well, the only thing she could do or knew to do, I guess. I mean, she went ahead and decided to, as they were walking her down back to the building, it's like through a dirt field with some, you know, a little bit of grass here and there, but it wasn't watered, so the grass really didn't grow. It was just like little patches here and there, and mostly dirt. And they're walking her across the field towards the back to the yard and the sidewalk, and she just decided about halfway, she just said, you know, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this, and I'm not walking down here every day. And she just decided to stop. And she proceeded to just take off her clothes. She took off all her clothes. Everything. I mean, she was restrained, so you could still take off your clothes when you're restrained. You just gonna have to, your clothes are gonna like sit at your wrist. They're not gonna be able to come off of your arms or your wrists, you know. But she took off her pants, she took off her shirt. She didn't do it in like a stripper kind of way or nothing like that. She just took off her clothes and says, you know, this is what I'm going to do every time you guys bring me to medical. I'm going to strip my clothes off and sit here in the middle of the field completely naked in all my glory. So, the officer's like calling, what we did, but they called for emergency. Look, she's taking her clothes off. She's refusing to go back to her house. She's mad about medical. Can someone come down here? Because the male officer was not happy that she was taking off her clothes. He was pretty upset, and he's like, can somebody relieve me, please? Like, I don't want to be here. She's a female. She's got all her clothes off. And as you can imagine, it was nothing nice to look at because she was really, really heavy. So he's like play by play, and we're on the radio and we're listening. We're like, what is happening? What is she doing? And we're listening to the radio, and then we're like going over to the control window and the yard fence and looking like, what is she doing? And he's like, well, now she's taking off her shirt, and there goes her bra, and she's taking off her pants with her underwear, and she's completely naked now. Here she is sitting on the rec yard. She's naked. And they decided just to let her sit there for a while until she was ready to go in. Nobody wanted to tackle this lady. Nobody wanted to do a use of force. And the lieutenant on site was like, look, if she's just sitting there and she's not being violent and she's not hurting anybody or lashing out at you guys, we're just going to let her sit there for a while. And I think that, I guess that was kind of a good call, because none of the officers, including the lieutenant, I'm sure, wanted to wrestle this lady to the ground and put her on a gurney and bring her back to her cell and all that. It's a lot of drama, a lot of paperwork, a lot of mess. And nobody wants to be wrestling with this stinky, overweight, heavy-set, like, big, huge lady. Like, she was just sitting in the rec yard like Jabba the Hutt. Just sitting there doing nothing and saying, I'm not going to medical like this anymore, and this is what I'm going to do. So it was just like really crazy. And we were like looking through the fences because we can't, you know, leave our post. So we're looking through the fences like, oh my God, she really is doing that. Look at her. She's really doing it. We're all laughing and kind of making jokes about it, you know, and trying to make light of it. And then we were like, well, at least we know we don't have to go out there and, you know, suit up and do a use of force. You know, so we were just cracking up and stuff. And then we went back to our checks or whatever. And she was out there for a couple hours, like 2 hours or so. And the officer that was with her, the male officer, just wanted to be relieved. He didn't want to deal with that. So they ended up sending another female out there, and they just stood out there with her while she sat there in all her glory for everybody to see. You know, with no clothes on, her clothes were hanging at her wrist, and, you know, what do you do at that point? Like, just wait it out until she's ready to go back in. And eventually she got hot, and she decided that she was going to go back in. So she put her clothes back on, and she stood up, and they walked her, you know, back to the yard. And that's all she was complaining about, and saying she's not doing it and whatever. And I want to talk to the lieutenant and whatever. And so they ended up coming down to the yard and talking to her. And, you know, she was voicing her distaste for having to go to medical. So she pretty much got a ticket. An information report was written on the situation, and she got away. After that, she didn't have to go to medical anymore because nobody wanted to see her do that every time, and no officer's going to want to escort her, though they would have to, but, you know, they just didn't. They just were like, okay, you know, Larry, you win. So if you just want to stay in your house and just, you know, not move around and end up, you know, dying eventually and making your health issues worse just by sitting here doing nothing 24 hours a day, then, you know, I guess that's it. So medical gave in and they all decided to, you know, go ahead and come to her for her insulin and her medical treatments. I'm sure there were other treatments that maybe she did have to go to medical for, but for the most part, for her everyday treatment and stuff, they went to herself. So, you know, sitting out there in the rec yard in all your glory for everyone to see, you know, is a little bit crazy, sounds crazy, but I guess when you don't have a lot of resources because you're a max inmate and you feel like you don't have a choice in the matter and you want some control, that's what she did. She just decided to take all her clothes off. It was nothing pretty to look at. I know a lot of people think that the female inmates are like Jodi Arias or they're attractive. No, they're not. Most of them were on drugs on the street, and then they get off of drugs and they start eating food, and then they just blow up like the Goodyear blimp, you know. Now, I don't believe that was her case or her problem. She came in heavy, and she got heavier when she got here. So, you know, and the food and everything there is not good. There's no taste to it. It's all like starchy stuff. They really don't get too much protein and stuff like that. I mean, they do have to, by law, give them a certain amount of calories and a certain amount of protein. But, you know, the food is crap. The food is horrible. Like, I never ate the food there ever. The whole 27 years that I was there. I think one time in Texas, we were able to cook our own food in the officer's dining hall, and I made myself an egg. And I made my own food, and it wasn't prepackaged food. In Texas, their food was better than Arizona because in Texas, they actually grow their own food, including the meat. And in Arizona, they don't. They privatized that. They contracted that out, which made the food super horrible because that company was always they're trying to make money. That's what they're in it for. And so they give the food the cheapest stuff. And oftentimes it's food that can't be sold in the grocery stores that these inmates get. So yeah, pretty nasty, pretty gross. But anyway, that's the story about Leary and how she got her way not to have to go to medical for her insulin. And yeah, that's it. So please like and share and comment if you like this video, and keep your clothes on.